of the Montgomery County School Board to order. It's 7:30, January 23rd, 2014. And my name is Joe Ivers. I'm Vice Chair, and I will be running a meeting until Mr. Jones gets here, which will probably be about between 8 and 8:30. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
Pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out in this bitter cold evening. Our first point is to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. Honors, war, awards, and recognition. I'd like to call Dr. Graham to assist with the honors, awards, and recognition.
Thank you. At this time, we will take time to recognize some of our seniors, and we will begin with Lisa Mayer. If she will come forward, she is our Supervisor of Fine Arts, and she will be recognizing Fine Arts Awards tonight. Thank you, Lisa.
Good evening. I am very happy and proud to present to you Holly Arsenault. Holly, come on up. Holly submitted a senior portfolio to the visual arts portion of the 2013-14 National Young Arts Competition, and she won an Award of Merit. This entry consisted of 24 original drawings, paintings, and sculpture. Those came from her AP Studio Art classes. She competed with over 11,000 students nationally, and 714 won an award. And Holly then is also, this is throughout the United States. She will attend a week-long Young Artist Conference in Los Angeles the first week of March. I know she'll be happy to be out of school for a little bit. She plans to continue her art career and has been accepted and offered full or substantial scholarships at numerous colleges. Congratulations, Holly.
Are Holly's parents here? Would you please stand up? We want to recognize you all. You must be.
Different class.
This time, Jennifer Weaver, our Director of Secondary Education, will come forward to introduce our Seniors of the Month program.
Good evening. Tonight we have 4 more fantastic representatives of our high school. This evening all 4 are here, so I'd like to begin with Auburn High School. Mr. Carl Pauley will be introducing the Senior of the Month.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver, Dr. Graham, Dr. Staton, Mr. Ivers, members of the board. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the Senior of the Month for Auburn High School for the month of January, Luke Wilson. At this time, I'd like to ask Luke and his mom and dad, Brian and Robin Wilson, to come forward. Also his 6 brothers and sisters, and his girlfriend, Anna, I think, is joining us as well. They take up a whole row. While they're coming up, let me just say a few words about Luke. Luke is an exceptionally pleasant young man who is highly regarded by his peers as well as the staff. Luke not only excels academically, he is recognized by staff and his peers for his character and leadership abilities. In his many activities, Luke motivates other students, encourages them, and sets an example for them. His positive attitude and enthusiasm are contagious. Luke is an excellent role model for other students in our school. Once again, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our Senior of the Month, Luke Wilson.
Good evening. It is with great pride that I introduce you to Blacksburg High School's January Senior of the Month, Mr. Joshua Ferre. Josh is accompanied this evening by his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ferre. Would you all please come forward? Following is a quote from Matt Beacon, math teacher and ACE competition sponsor at Blacksburg High School. Josh has demonstrated an enthusiasm for learning and excellent performance consistently throughout his high school career. He contributes insightful thoughts to classroom discussion, he maintains a positive attitude, and always carries himself with integrity. Josh is an AP Scholar with distinction and a commended National Merit Scholar, as well as a member of the Blacksburg High School Junior Laurel Chain. Blacksburg High School is pleased to present Mr. Josh Ferre as our January Senior of the Month.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Graham, Dr. Staten. It is with great pride that I introduce to you Christiansburg High School's January Senior of the Month, Coy Wilson Ozias. Coy is accompanied this evening by his mother, Robin Wilson. Will you please come forward to be recognized at this time? Coy is recognized with this honor for his constant pursuit of excellence. Not only is he a three-time, soon-to-be four-time state champion in wrestling, he also carries a 4.17 GPA, is ranked in the top 5 of his graduating class, and has been accepted to Princeton University, where he plans to wrestle for the Tigers while pursuing a degree in public and international affairs. We at CHS know that Coy is serious about this pursuit because last summer, while other high school students were lounging by the pool tweeting about their importance to the world, Coy was half the planet away in Morocco, immersing himself in the Arabic culture and learning the language as part of the National Security Language Initiative for Youth program sponsored by the U.S. State Department. Coy exemplifies the very best that we have to offer at CHS, and we are extremely proud to have him represent us in any venue.
Did you mention that Coy's going for his 4th state championship? Good. I've watched him wrestle. He's terrific. I just love watching him. You were in Roanoke this week? I'm going in 3 weeks. We need to talk.
He wants to go with you, I'm sure.
Dr. Staten, members of the board, I'm honored to be here tonight to introduce our Seniors of the Month. I have 2 actually, but unfortunately one couldn't be here, and that is our January Senior of the Month, Tiffany. She was unable to attend tonight, but we do have our December Senior of the Month with us tonight, J.T. Schrader. He is accompanied by his parents, Ken and Rebecca Schrader. If they would come forward, please. Karen Carrier, EMHS business teacher, had this to say about our December Senior of the Month. J.T. Schrader is an exceptional student in and out of the classroom and is highly deserving of recognition. He stands out from the crowd with his above-average academic abilities, leadership qualities, and respectful manners. He is well-equipped and always ready to perform, whether on the basketball court, leading a Future Business Leaders of America meeting, or brightening our mornings with announcements. I have no doubt JT will take this drive and determination into his future endeavors and achieve every dream he has ever desired. We do know JT is going to go far. Congratulations.
At this time, we will take a 5-minute break to allow the board members and the audience to congratulate our students and their families. Thank you.
Next item is public address. At this time, and at each of our regular scheduled meetings, the school board sets aside 30 minutes for citizens to address the board about issues pertaining to public education in Montgomery County. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to speak. The screen throughout the room and on top of the laptop will indicate that the speaker has 30 seconds remaining when the 3 minutes has passed. And we do have 4 people who have signed up, and I'll try to pronounce these names correctly. The first speaker, when you come up, would you please state your name and your address? And it's Marissa Amode.
Hi, I'm Marissa Amadeo, a 10th grade student at Blacksburg High School, and I recently learned that the schedule for next school year, revised as of 2014, by the school board requires all students to take 7 classes and a 25-minute lunch period. Limiting students to 7 classes will have several negative effects. I am taking 8 classes this year because of my involvement in band. Band is important to me. I've been taking it for 5 years now. I have counted on taking 8 classes in order to meet requirements for graduating. If we are limited to 7 classes, I can't be involved with music at BHS because I can't meet all the requirements and take band at the same time. Over half of the students in advanced band are likely to drop this class. Other students face the same problem with their elective courses, including advanced classes that require 2 periods. Cutting out fine arts curriculum severely limits students' ability to explore areas of their interest and participate in a community of peers that share their goals and create their identity. This new schedule allows students to take an extra class before or after school. However, this opportunity is only available to students that have transportation to do so. Furthermore, anyone taking an 8th period after school will face conflicts with sports, clubs, academic leagues, and other extracurricular activities. The best solution to this problem is to offer 8 classes and a lunch within the school day. Extending the 15-minute flex that students use as a lunch period is a simple solution. Only 5 or 10 minutes could make a difference. The students who want to take 8 classes will be able to do so, and other students can have a study hall as well as a full lunch period instead. Everyone would benefit from this. I understand that we need to take a lunch. However, I don't believe that this should become an obstacle to our academic pursuit. Taking 8 classes will give us the best opportunity to exceed to our full potential. I will now close with a few quotes from a petition that several of the BHS students, including myself, started in response to the new schedule change. The curricular band program at Blacksburg High School has been part of the school's identity for more than a quarter century. Cutting off that avenue of student achievement can only have a detrimental effect on the school and the community it serves. Achievement can simply not be improved by disengaging students from school. Respectfully, David Webb, 2013 Virginia Region 5 Teacher of the Year. I realize that these are trying economic times, but the proper way to economize is not by eliminating opportunities for our students to become well-rounded individuals. Mark Gardner, Blacksburg, Virginia. Students should have the option to excel to their greatest potential. By taking away an 8th period, that option is also taken away. Each student should have the ability to choose what's best for them, their academic career, and their future. Madeline Brown, Blacksburg, Virginia. Thank you for your consideration.
Next speaker is Keisha Miller.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Keisha Miller. I live at 465 Wakeman Court in Christiansburg. I had sent each of you an email stating some of my issues and concerns with the affordable health care as well as our incentive benefits that I received through Montgomery County. I'm a school bus driver as well as a special ed aide. I'm here for myself with these concerns as well as the other part-time employees. I'm not sure if a lot of the employees, the part-time employees, are aware of the situation with the new affordable health care that requires us to have insurance, and you can obtain that insurance through the marketplace. However, there seem to be a multitude of stipulations with doing that. First, when you apply, they're expecting you to know what your income is perceived to be the following year. For example, what you would make for 2014 for the 2015 filing year. You could give them one set amount as to what you're used to making, but if the incentive benefits happens to decrease or if anything else decreases as far as that income comes, then your amount is going to differ from what you stated on your application. Thus, according to the representatives, could be classified as committing fraud. Then if you were given a tax credit while applying for this insurance, then you could be forced to have to pay that back through your tax return as well. For myself personally, I had stated on there one specific amount. Should anything happen to our benefits, then that would deduct me close to $5,000, which would thus put me in jeopardy of committing fraud because I told them one set amount and it ended up being another amount. The other issue that I have too is that I work 40 hours for the county, but I was not offered benefits. So therefore, I had to require benefits through the marketplace because with my income, that was the only place that would accept me financially. Again, I'm not sure if the other part-time employees realize just how this could impact them, but at the same time, I don't see how the government could really expect us to know what our future income is going to be. When you work for a school system, a lot of things take place as far as if the budget and how that goes, what may get cut, what may not get cut, so we really don't know. I mean, we have a general idea, but that's not set in stone until we actually get our W-2s and file our taxes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker is Pat Goldamere. Goldamere?
Goldammer.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry, everybody gets it wrong. Okay, well, as already stated, my name is Pat Goldammer, and I reside at 120 Mateer Circle, Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm here to address the board in regards to the proposed Blacksburg High School schedule. As a parent of a senior graduating 13th in her class, I've been privileged to witness the quality of the education she has received and that Blacksburg High School has offered. It is currently ranked in the top 1,000 student classes, high schools, within the nation. This is quite an achievement. I would like to not see that achievement be cheapened. Blacksburg High School offers an impressive selection of AP courses, as well as a top fine arts program, a top selection of classes such as shop, auto repair, auto mechanics, cosmetology, and other pursuits that you can go directly from high school and into the working world. By going to a 7-course schedule instead of offering the option of an 8-period schedule, you're severely limiting students' ability to take all of their required courses along with some of the other courses that makes a well-rounded student. By removing those 8 courses, you're threatening the ability for students to take double-period AP courses. You're threatening the ability for kids to take double-period shop courses. You're threatening our fine arts program. You're threatening our arts, our music, and other such things. I know that it has been proposed to put some of these courses available to students online. As a parent of my student who's ranked 13th in her class, I know that online learning is not the same as in-course learning. She's becoming a pilot. She has fought with online courses to get her ground school for 2.5 years. She then enrolled herself in a 2-day, 16-hour course taught by a live person and passed her ground school exam in the 85th percentile. So this is something that I propose. I would really like you to continue with year-round school and 8 periods available. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and one last thing. I know that some teachers have volunteered to be paid for 5 courses and teach 6. If somebody's that good, you should probably take them up on their offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Dr. Greg Bethel.
Good evening. My name is Greg Bethard. My address is 564 High Meadow Drive, Blacksburg. Good evening. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak tonight. Speaking on behalf of my daughter, Michaela, who's a 10th grader in Blacksburg High School. We moved to Blacksburg about 3 years ago specifically for the schools. We lived in a different part of Virginia, and we were not happy with the education we were receiving and moved here specifically for that reason. And we have been tremendously pleased with the education she's gotten here at Blacksburg High School. We've enjoyed every aspect of it. The academics have been outstanding and stellar, and band in particular has been something that she's really cherished and gotten a lot out of. It's been a great experience for her. So recently, I've become aware of the switching from 8 periods to 7. I've talked to my daughter extensively about this, and she complained to me about, gee, Dad, if they go from 8 periods to 7, I'm going to have to stop taking band. I was like, stop taking band? Why is that? Well, she explained to me double AP, the classes that she wants to take to be able to get into school. She's very academically motivated, as many of her classmates are, many students are at Blacksburg, and she's got tremendous aspirations professionally of where she wants to be. So taking these classes are very important to her. So she said, hey, I'm not going to be able to take band. I was like, isn't there another alternative? She said, well, there's something before school and after, potentially online. Well, before and after doesn't work real well. She's got a lot of other chores, responsibilities, other things she has to do. It's difficult to make that happen. I'm sure we could sacrifice and make it happen. I'm not sure how many other students that would become an issue of getting transportation before school and after school. And I don't think that's really the way we would be happy with it proceeding. As an outsider looking in, maybe I'm oversimplifying the situation, but it seems like 10 minutes needs to be made up. 8 periods a day, that's a little more than a minute per period. Seems that's a reasonable solution to make up that 10 minutes, keep the 8 periods, and make an extended lunch period. So that may be an oversimplification of how to solve this problem, but I think there's got to be a way to solve this where students could continue to have 8 classes if they wanted to, be able to take the double AP classes, take the academic rigor that they require and is necessary to get into the college that they want to get to, but yet still be able to take something like band or some sort of extracurricular or artistic endeavor that I think is really and a huge part of our education. I come from a family of educators, my wife does, so education to us is very important, as it is to all of you and everyone here tonight. But I think the arts are particularly important in the total education that a child gets in high school. So one thing unique about Blacksburg High School and why we came here is the academic integrity and vigor, plus the ability to choose from different art programs I think is unique. And I'd really hate to see us take a step back from that. So again, I appreciate your time tonight, and I hope you'll give that some consideration and think of some way that we can make that happen and keep our 8 periods. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. If there's anyone else who cares to address the board, please come forward. Seeing no one, public address is closed. Consent items. Is there anything that needs to be pulled for consent, from the consent agenda that we need to consider?
I just want to make sure there were no items, right? Because
There was a donation.
I didn't get anything.
There was a donation from an anonymous donor in the amount of $4,000 for Price's Fork Elementary School. That money will go to Upgrade the primary playground.
Okay.
That was the only item under consent.
Well, let me ask this question. I couldn't pull consent items up, could you?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And,
We'll move the donation to the next meeting.
I'm
Please.
fine. I'm fine. I just couldn't pull it up to see if there were any consent items at all.
That's the only thing I have is the donation.
Yeah, that's all there was.
is that all there was?
Yes.
So,
Oh, I'm fine.
okay, I'm fine too. Personnel report. Do I have a motion to adopt the personnel report? Second. Any discussion on the personnel report? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Payment of the bills. Do I have a motion to pay the bills? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the bills? All those in favor of paying the bills, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Financial summary. Do I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of the financial summary report?
So moved.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Superintendent's report, recommendations, and announcements. Dr. Stanton?
Thank you,
you're
Mr.
Center stage.
Thank you, sir, and members of the board. The first item is the appointment of a Montgomery County Education Foundation. The bylaws of the Montgomery County Education Foundation request that the Montgomery County School Board appoint an official liaison to the Board of Directors for the foundation. The liaison will then be elected to the Montgomery County Education Foundation Board of Directors. Therefore, the board is asked to appoint a liaison to the Montgomery County Educational Foundation Board of Directors.
I suggest Sarah Woolsey to be appointed to be the part of the liaison.
Say that again?
Sarah Woolsey, I suggest her to be the part of the liaison for the board.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Any discussion?
Does this answer the whole issue that we had before? I just want to make sure that, so we're all happy now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if we're all happy, but we may not all be happy, but it does.
It does solve whatever issue that we had a few weeks ago.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
The next item, sir, is for the Special Education Advisory Council member. On behalf of the superintendent, I recommend that you approve Angela Scarpa Freeman as a member of the Montgomery County Public Schools Special Education Advisory Committee. Dr. Scarpa Freeman has a PhD in clinical psychology and is a licensed psychologist in Virginia. She primarily works with child mental health, particularly autism, ADHD, and conduct problems. We feel she would be a great asset to the Montgomery County Public Schools Special Education Advisory Committee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Our next item, sir, is facilities update. I'll call Dan Baronano to come forward to provide the board with an update on facilities.
We'll get the PowerPoint in a second. Good evening. Let's see, the first thing I was going to talk about is at New Christiansburg Middle School, the freeze and water damage repairs that we had a couple of weeks ago. Was when we had the deep freeze, what happened was a pipe in one of the exterior walls in the science room froze, and then when it thawed out, it basically shot water all across the room. We found it The school found it very early in the morning when people got there about 7. We attended to it right away, shut the water valve off, cleaned up all the water, and then got things all moved so they could still have class. They actually had some extra classrooms and moved to another pod. It was in a science room, and 5 classrooms and a teacher workroom were affected. Everybody was moved. It was a late opening, and by the time the kids got in there, they were just directed down to the other location where they'd been moved. That evening, ServPro came in, the insurance company came in, they brought ServPro in, and the next day, ServPro cleaned things up and dried things out the next few days. And yesterday, we had a company come in to start replacing insulation in the walls and wallboard and painting, and we anticipate that to be completed by the end of next week, and we'll be able to start the next semester. This semester ends next week, so the next semester they'll be back in for those 5 classrooms. Possibly, there won't be cabinets yet in the science classroom. That room was extensively damaged, and we'll get those. Those are going to be out to, well, I think we're getting a quote right now that we're getting to the insurance company. And so that will be the last thing, but the teachers will be able to move back. The science teacher actually used 2 rooms in the pod, so she'll get 1.
Question.
Sir.
There was a wrestling tournament going on when this pipe burst.
That's the next item.
Okay.
Okay. So this Saturday night, I believe it was, during a wrestling tournament at Christiansburg High School, we have a number of HVAC air handlers up in the ceiling in the rafters, and right just after 8 o'clock, while they were wrestling, one of those pipes that had frozen thawed out. We don't know exactly when it froze, probably that day, and water started coming down, called timeout. Luckily, the custodians were there. They got the lift, went up, shut the valve it off, cleaned it up. The wrestling tournament proceeded, and we've attended to it in the last few days, and we were able to get, we had a little bit of water damage on a relatively small area of the floor that we found the next morning, and this week we sanded that down, put another coat of polyurethane over, made it safe. They played basketball on it last night, so it's unaffected.
And I'm assuming that this happened during the wrestling matches.
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming that all the people who were viewing the matches and the wrestlers and everybody it was orderly and everything was fine?
Yes, yes.
I'm looking at no injuries with anything like that?
No.
Okay, good.
No, sir. Other items we're beginning are the roof replacement on a center section of Margaret Beeks. We're not doing the whole building. We're beginning the design for that, as well as Christiansburg Elementary, where we have a classroom pod. There was actually an addition back in the 60s, and that area, we're designing those for replacement, and we expect to get those roofs replaced this summer. Christiansburg area feasibility study, the engineers and architects have been out to all the buildings in Christiansburg. They've done their on-site evaluations, and in the next couple weeks they're going to be doing some traffic analysis on the site and also working on zoning and utilities and those infrastructure issues to get a background. And we hope to see a preliminary first draft of this in February for staff to look at. And nothing new on the Shawsville Middle School Annex. That's still in planning. No new PTA booster projects on this list, although this morning I heard that we are possibly getting some from Price's Fork Elementary on a walking trail, from Falling Branch on a climbing wall. And if those do come in, I'll put them on the next facilities update. The new BHS rubberized track that's moving along, that's in design now and will be out to bid in a month or so, to be done this spring, summer. And the only other one, that Margaret Beeks, the bench installation, as I understand it, the school did buy the bench, and it's now come in, and we'll put that in as soon as the weather breaks. I know no one can read this. This is the update on all of the former schools, from the former Blacksburg Middle through the central office. There's nothing new to report that I know of.
So, the old Blacksburg Middle School, there's still nothing happening there? As far as, I know with our joint meeting, there was supposed to be some more discussion. I heard that they had a meeting between the council and the supervisors, I think last week, and still nothing?
At the supervisors' meeting, they indicated that they were going to draft a letter to send to the council, and then an invite to get together and discuss the old Blacksburg Old Middle School.
Did you hear that a meeting occurred?
I don't think
Yeah, on
so.
the news, they were reporting that there was going to be a meeting between,
Ms. Franklin, would you pull your mic?
at least I thought that the news was reporting last week that there was a meeting with the supervisors and the Blacksburg Town Council.
I haven't heard anything.
I thought it said they were.
There's a letter
trying
that
to
was
get
drafted,
one.
I know that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if the meeting was,
I read the meeting notes that they published online, and that they were going to put together a letter to send to them, because there was some contentious debate about what the content of the letter should be, as I understand.
How
We'll
about stop
follow.
holding that building hostage, you know, and give the taxpayers in Montgomery County a break so we can sell it and take care of some other capital projects in the county, particularly in Christiansburg. You know, I'm not mincing my words about how I feel about what's going on with that. It's ridiculous. And we should stop being so nice about it.
Any further questions for Mr. Baronato? I do have one. Apologize.
I have one more slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that,
My apologies.
do you want me to do that, or I could take the question
Go
now?
ahead, go ahead. It's your show.
These were the capital maintenance projects that we were doing under the $400,000 that was sent over from the Board of Supervisors last year. On their way. We have pretty much everything finished. The door security hardware, on the first one, we have just about all the schools. The main thing that we don't have, that we're getting bids for, is some more door hardware at Charlesville Middle School in the area of the cafeteria, those exterior doors. And once that's, we hope to receive the bids in soon and order those parts and get those finished within about a month. And then all these will be done. It looks like we'll have spent on about $325,000. We had expected to spend $375,000 on these. So we'll look at the next ones on the list and see where that will go. The next one on the list, I believe, is some doors at the CHS gymnasium. So I haven't had a chance to look into that yet, but that's what's next on the list.
What security schools are you working on right now? I know Harding is done, and which for the.
Oh, on the, that's the one with the matching grants with the A-phones and the buzzers. I apologize, I'm not sure which one that is. Harvey's department's, it's mostly technology that goes in there, and I'll find that out for you and get that to you.
My questions was on the water freeze in the gymnasium. That insurance picking the tab up on that? Is there?
On the gymnasium, I don't think that will go over $1,000. It's a $1,000 deductible.
Okay.
All we had to do was we rented a sander and we used a bucket of polyurethane.
So it was a very small area.
Right. Now, that's the floor, and we're still assessing the repairs of the unit itself. The coil did burst in a couple places. We've soldered some, and we still don't have all the holes. We had one of our controls contractors up there. Today, I didn't get a report back to what they found.
So this was a unit that failed?
Yes, we're not sure exactly which part failed. That's what they're troubleshooting, and we're going to make sure that we check all the others in the gym for that.
It would be interesting, you don't have to answer now, but it'd be interesting to know if this was on the Cardinal Tech report. If they had identified this as some of the things that we needed to take a look at.
They're original units.
So-
They have what's called a freeze stat, which is basically a thermostat.
Right.
When it senses air coming through that's below a certain temperature, 38 degrees, it's supposed to shut the unit off. That may have failed, something else may have failed. But what they're doing is they're bringing in outside air for ventilation and mixing it with inside air, and then it's supposed to go across the coils, and something happened. The freeze stat is 40 years old.
That's what I meant, that's what I was thinking.
So,
How many units are in the gym?
believe it's 6.
6, so we're okay as far as...
We actually, I'm told, only we're able to heat and cool the gym with 3 units, and that had been our practice. So we're good there.
Any other questions for Mr. Baronato?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, this time, sir, we'll ask Mr. Ellswick to come for our Skanska representative. Provide the board an update on the capital projects.
Good evening. I'd like to give an update on the progress of the new Auburn Middle School and also touch on the closeout of Blacksburg High School and the new Auburn High School as well. I'll start with Auburn Middle School and show some pictures. The one picture on your left is the view from Route 8 as you're driving past the what used to be the old high school. You can see the new additions are going up. There's a big crane on site, which is a good sign. That means you're setting steel, and steel's going up as well. The picture on the right is a view of the future entrance to the administrative areas to the school. Picture on your left is, you can see the steel structure and the joist going up for this is the lobby area outside of the auditorium. And one on your right is actually inside a restroom on the first floor. You can see that the ceiling is going in and work continues there. This is a picture of the media center. The ceiling has been painted and the walls have been primed and getting ready for other coats of paint in that area. And the picture on the right is some of the walls going up for the elevator and stairs, which will be in the connector between the school and the career and technical education building. The good news with the middle school is we're on target for substantial completion this November, so that's 9 or 10 months away. We've got a little bit of work to do, but everything's looking good. Other things we're working on, the building committee has met with the design team, and they are working together to pick the final color selections for the middle school. FF&E and technology procurement the planning is underway, and I think some of those RFPs will be let here in the near future to get that process going as well, to make sure the rooms are furnished on time. And then I want to touch on the closeout of the two new high schools. There are a few remaining punch list items that the contractor still is working on. Some of those include some minor repairs to the tennis courts at both high schools, mainly just to get rid of some puddling that has taken place. And then there's some site-related items with Blacksburg High School as well, and some of that is weather dependent, so some of that work's going to take place in March and in May after tennis season is over. Baseball and softball fields at Blacksburg High School still need more time to grow in. They will not be ready for play this season. They definitely will be for next season, and the main reason there is the tight schedule for the project and what the contractor did to try to prioritize work to get it done. Of course, the highest priority was getting the school open on time, so the efforts were on the building, the multi-purpose fields that were needed for PE classes, the entrance to the school, and the fields just need a little bit more time to grow in. There's some repairs needed on the gym floor at Blacksburg High School. These are to get rid of some squeaks in the floor, and also there's some areas that need to be refinished. Of course, we can't get in there, the contractor can't get in there and do that work right now, so they are scheduled to get in there in June, once school's out, to take care of that. And then we're also working with the contractor to take care of some final accounting and to be able to close out the 2 high schools so we can only concentrate on the middle school. And that concludes my presentations, and I'll take questions.
Any questions? The information I'm getting about the softball and baseball fields, that there's more than just letting the grass grow, that there's a number of things wrong with the fields, and they had to be relayed out, and there's some issues with fencing and a number of issues, not just growing it in.
There have been. Most of those issues, like with the fencing, a lot of that is being taken care of. The contractor's continuing to work there. The problem is they can't get in there to do some of the topsoil and the seeding because it's so wet. And if they got in there to start working on the fields, it would make it worse off than what they are right now. So it's a bad time of year to try to fix some of those things. There's a drainage issue, which also has to do with some of the turf growing in as well.
Someone said that the whole thing had to be relayed out or re-engineered because it wouldn't fit?
No, a long time ago, when there was a change of administration, the baseball and softball fields were actually reoriented. They were facing one way, they were reoriented, so it took a little bit of time to get that redesigned, regraded, and laid back out, so that had a little bit of impact on the schedule as well. But that was a preference of the Montgomery County Schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's disappointing that they're not going to be ready.
I agree. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. The next item is the supplemental appropriation for 2013-2014. We ask that you authorize a request to the Board of Supervisors for supplemental appropriations to the 2013-14 school operating budget in the total amount of $408,185. Funds have been received as a reimbursement of expenditures for universal services discounts, E-rate, in the amount of $293,370, and also for before and after school programs in the amount of $102,478. And a grant has been received from the state for the Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports program in the amount of $12,337. Supplemental appropriation is required for the fiscal year 2013-14 school operating budget for the expenditures incurred. So pursuant to Section 22-.1-94 of the Code of Virginia, this administration seeks authorization to request a supplemental appropriation for from the Board of Supervisors.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the request? Hearing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Appropriation has been approved.
The final item on the superintendent's report is the operating budget / school nutrition budget. I'll start here with making the statement that the school nutrition budget is also presented for your approval for the public hearing on Tuesday, January 28th. School nutrition is a self-supporting fund. Their revenue is received from 3 sources: federal reimbursement, state reimbursement, and meal purchases. The school nutrition budget has been increased by $128,441 to a total budget of $4,286,867. The second page of the school nutrition budget shows the estimated meal price increases for the fiscal year 2014-15. Federal regulations require weighted average pricing for the school lunches. The information for this calculation will not be available until April of this year. For budgeting purposes, a 25-cent increase in breakfast and a 15-cent increase in lunch prices are presented. A new federal requirement effective July 1st, 2014 requires one serving of fruit or vegetable to be served with breakfast. Now, I will now join Dr. Graham at the podium to review with you the needs-based operating budget for your approval.
Good evening again. Tonight, we will review the superintendent's proposed budget request. And as you know, the budget request, the board requested a needs-based budget. Our intent will be to briefly review each item in the budget tonight. First, it's important to keep in mind some key dates on the budget calendar. Tonight, the board is scheduled to adopt a budget for public hearing, which is on January the 28th. February 4th, the school board will approve the initial budget, which will be forwarded to the county administration on February the 7th. Following this, the school board will still need to update the request because we don't yet have any information from the Board of Supervisors or from the General Assembly, which meets in March. Basically, right now, the superintendent is sharing our budgetary needs without knowledge of what our funding will look like. Once we have actual appropriations, the board will make revisions. A final budget is scheduled to be approved on May 6th, and the work we do tonight provides a platform for many discussions and modifications to come. As we present this needs-based budget, please keep in mind we have not been restored to the level of our 2008-2009 budget, nor have we seen funds to reflect inflation. We are certainly proud of the work that our staff has done and the things that have been accomplished given our budgetary constraints. The intent of a needs-based budget is to communicate the needs of our division to the public and to the Board of Supervisors. We do understand that if we do not receive full funding, we will be tasked with making reductions. We may reduce from items on the proposed budget, as well as using items on the reduction list, which we gave you earlier. In the last 6 years, the board has made some very painful and difficult decisions as we determined what our reductions had to be. I think we all share the hope that one year we will come to the budget season and be able to restore and even expand our budget. Dr. Staten and I are going to give you a review of the items line by line. We'll strive for brevity, but we do want to make sure that you have the information that you need for future planning, and we hope to either answer your questions or find answers for you. So we'll start with line 2. Since Auburn Middle School is a new, larger school, we expect to pay increased costs for utilities, of course. In addition, Appalachian has projected a 3.5% rate increase. So the items combined result in a $125,000 increase for next year.
It's okay to interrupt you as we go along.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what that 3.5 increase would be?
The 3.5 increase is the overall Appalachian increase.
Well,
So
it's 125,000, which includes everything.
right,
But do you know what that would be by any chance?
broken down. I don't have
Okay.
that.
And that's a utility rate increase across the board for
Right,
all
across the
schools.
board for
Okay.
all
The
schools.
the inflation.
Correct.
Okay.
I think it was roughly 64,000, but I'll double check on that number for you.
That's close enough.
Okay. Line 3, this year we did restore the Governor's School Program using one-time funds. We would like to restore this as part of the operating budget for future years. Line 4 is the e-learning backpack program, and we have given you a chart to look at to help explain that a little bit. If you will look at line 1 on the chart, I'll walk you through that line. The state is offering grant money in the amount of $207,600 to fund an electronic backpack initiative for qualifying schools. Now, in our case, as you'll see on that line, the schools that qualify are Auburn, Christiansburg, and Eastern Montgomery High Schools. To accept the funding, a school system must also provide a 20% match. So in our case, that's $41,600. So the grand total that you see at the end, combining the state money and our match, comes to $249,200. That would be an annual cost each for 4 years. Like many of the state initiatives, this puts our division in a perplexing situation. If we do the minimum that I just described, the money isn't sufficient to offer the highest quality program or the highest quality devices to support the program. However, if we don't take advantage of the grant, we forgo an opportunity to acquire state assistance for the next 4 years with providing devices for our students. So we have provided the board with several scenarios which range of a low of approximately $250,000 that I just described, in which our portion would be $42,000, to a high of $858,000 if you look at the very last line. In that scenario, the MCPS portion is $650,000. And the reason that's so high is that scenario includes the funding for Blacksburg High School. Keep in mind, Blacksburg High School doesn't qualify for the grant. So Montgomery County would incur all the expenses for Blacksburg High School. If you look at the chart, lines 1 through 4, we provided a low, a medium, and a fully funded initiative for Auburn High School, Christiansburg High School, and Eastern Montgomery High. The column labeled Total MCPS Funding shows what our share would be for each one of those scenarios. And then that same process is repeated where we've included Blacksburg High School in the plan. For the purpose of the proposed budget, we used what it would take to fully fund a quality initiative. As you know, we're living in the age of technology. We would love to put a device in every child's hands, not just ninth grade, we'd love to put a device in every child's hands to ensure that they have every opportunity to be competitive in their college and their career choices. The superintendent recommended that the board consider high quality implementation, which is the last line, knowing that you will have the opportunity to revisit or downsize, but in order to consider the opportunity, it has to be included within the budget. Okay?
Now,
questions before?
Yes. When you say we can downsize, you're talking about next week or sometime within the next 10, 15 days.
Exactly. Once we know.
Go ahead.
No, you were saying it. Once we know what our budget looks like, then when we have to come back and make reductions, we can certainly cut from anything on the superintendent's proposed budget or make other cuts as well.
And at this point, I think the board needs to understand, I'm sure they do already, that we have no idea what the state's going to do. And really, we have an inkling of what the county supervisors are going to do, but we're in kind of a no man's land right now. So you're indicating, let's go for it, and we can always back off if we need to.
And coming back to the idea of a needs-based budget,
yes,
this is the need we would really like to be able to do, but since we don't know our funding, that portrays our need.
But any other questions, board members?
I just have a little bit of a concern with us having this expense, knowing for sure that this is going to be something that's beneficial for our students. I am in total agreement that technology we're in that age. We're in a technological age, and I'm sitting up here staring at 2 iPads and an iPhone. But I am not convinced that merely throwing a device in a high schooler's hand is going to magically make them smarter or their education better or going to improve anything.
I would say you're exactly right. If you just hand a child an iPad and you don't work with the classroom teacher, and you don't work with the child, all you've given them is a device that they might play on. I think we've learned, and there is included in the grant, an opportunity in the summer where you send representatives from the school system to a training as well. We don't have any intention in any of our situations of putting a device in the hand and not working with teachers and working with staff and making sure that we're using it in an instructionally sound manner. That's a valid point and happened years ago when computers were first the craze of, oh, let's buy one, and people forgot professional development is key to making it work. That's why the state of Virginia came out with an initiative years ago that teachers have to be able to prove that they're tech savvy in order to get their certification now. Same thing with something like this, though. You have to teach the teacher as well.
When the student that would have them in 9th grade when they graduate from school, does that device come back to the school system?
Yes, assuming it still has a lifespan.
Right.
Mhm.
So this is just to put for 9th grade?
Yes, the 9th grade student then would take it with them for
Right.
the next 3 years.
So would the next year's 9th graders get them, and the next year's 9th graders get them?
Correct.
So we would continue this,
Right, it's an annual cost.
an annual cost, and is the state going to fund this
Yes.
for 4
That's
years?
their commitment, is that 4-year commitment.
And then after 4 years,
We are on our own.
Right.
we could be on the hook for it.
Mhm.
So the difference in the pricing is the menu or selection of the device and what type of warranty and what type of damage control, and if we actually buy enough for the teachers.
Exactly, and Ms. Bond talked last time about a device and how much memory it can hold. You would need a device that holds enough that you can download apps, download chapters of textbooks. So you have to have, I'm sure we've all had a cell phone where you couldn't get any coverage. You might as well not have the device.
Right.
So you have to look and make sure that you have the quality.
So these are devices that they'll also take home with them, correct?
Correct.
So how are we going to limit their ability to download whatever apps off
Uh,
iTunes or wherever we get it?
Right, there's a system that you can put on the device to limit what you can download.
So they won't be able to download.
That's the intent.
That's
yes.
the intent.
Mhm.
And that is going to be part of, regardless of which level of funding that we go, that'll be a mandatory requirement, right?
I think it would have to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other comment I have is that our first year costs also would have to include the 2 salaries for down at the bottom, where we call it restore, and then it says an additional technician, but really, since we have it on this piece of paper
Right.
here, our first year cost is going to be more than $249,000 because we're adding staffing.
And actually, we would like to add that staffing in any event. We haven't had a new technician since 1998.
Right, I understand that.
But yes, you're correct. And you had emailed about moving that line over, and I sent you a question just to clarify.
Right,
but,
yeah, I think
you're correct.
They're in cell E2 or whatever it was.
Mhm.
We're doing more than $41,000
Mhm.
in the first year, regardless.
If you count the staff, yes.
With the money, could you choose, say, it sounds great to give part of my issue is even though I think it's a great learning tool and we all love our iPads, I don't know that every freshman's responsible enough to have one. Even though, they all know how to use them, that doesn't mean you need to. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I don't mean to be negative at all, but is there a way, do you get, with a grant like this, do you get a block lump sum of funding, or do they say, okay, if you get a 16 gig iPad, we'll give you, but if you're only going to get an HD Kindle, we're not going to give you, I'm
sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, because could the first year, if you said, okay, we feel like we need to put something, there's lots of readers that have expansion cards you can use to download chapter books if they can't hold it on the system that are inexpensive. It might not be the prime piece of equipment to use, but this is kind of a trial and error thing. Why would you put all your money or all your apples into one basket the first time? Could you use a certain type one and then the next year come back and say, okay, this wasn't good enough. So we're going to increase and do something better the next time.
The state gave $400 per student, which immediately limits what you would purchase unless you added money.
Right.
Then we have a team researching what might be the best product to buy. To my knowledge, there is no rule within the grant that if you buy something the first year, you have to repeat that every year. Certainly, you might find that you didn't make a wise choice and make a change.
Right.
But for servicing it, obviously, technology department likes to stay with consistency if possible. If you find out something's not working, you're
Right.
correct, it'd be
I
wise
get
to
that.
change.
But if you've got $400 per student, I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, sometimes you just have to buy something that you can afford. Yeah, I'd like to, you know, drive a 370Z, but I can't afford it. You know, so I mean, I buy what I can afford. And so I'm thinking, if you get $400 a student, could you not factor in what it's going to cost for the extra students and the extra cost for the you know, the different people that need to be hired for it, and divide it to what you can get to make up that $400 per student? If you see what I'm saying? Like if you have to buy a $250 device, and that extra money goes toward the servicing of that device and the making it work, and the Blacksburg High School adding those students in as well. I mean, is that a thought opposed to just saying, okay, we're going to go buy a $400 iPad?
Well, from the grant, we can't use any of the grant money towards Blacksburg High School. That would, we would lose the whole grant if we did that. So we have to be careful with the rules of the grant.
I see what you're saying.
But within deciding which device, we certainly would look at what we can afford and what we need.
Right.
I'm really looking forward to hearing back from the pilot that you're going to do in the 2 high schools and the 2 classrooms, and I think that will help us answer a lot of our questions and concerns and figure out how to move forward or not. But I think that leaving this in here for now is the plan, and as we go through this between now and May, we'll have a lot of more questions and concerns, but hearing back from that pilot is going to be very beneficial.
That's served us well in the past.
So we're going to do a pilot? I'm sorry, catch me up on
Yes,
that.
we were going to do a pilot with 2 different devices so that we would
Okay,
have some.
So this is a pilot on 2 different devices.
But what are those 2 different devices? I mean, the pilot, I mean, I really don't mean to be begrudging, but I just can't help but think, you know, you give someone an iPad and that pilot's going to go well.
That was still being determined. They were still studying what those were going to be,
I mean,
trying to narrow it down.
Follow where I'm coming, you
Not
know?
necessarily, because it's going to try out all the different kinds of softwares and textbooks and things that we want to use in the classroom. And so we have to just decide what
I
device.
get that, but I guarantee you it's not going to be a negative.
necessarily.
It has been in some cases. We purchased some textbooks that came with electronic software and then found that it did not work for us.
Gotcha.
So and we did a small pilot a couple years ago at Christiansburg Elementary with some devices. It did end up being a positive after technology spent a lot of time working with the 2 classroom
Now, were those
teachers.
like
Initially,
touch?
the device just wouldn't work and they had to
see,
put in airports.
And that right there is my concern.
That's-
I work in IT. Okay. So I know the behind the scenes that goes on here. And that is my biggest concern, is that it sounds good here on paper.
Right.
And it looks great in my hands. But when the rubber meets the road and trying to implement it, is a lot of hands-on behind-the-scenes work. I mean, these 2 people here, they're still probably going to need more. And I still think that the bandwidth issues hasn't been answered to my satisfaction yet. Okay, you may have it. I'm with Ms. Wolf. I mean, I think that we need to leave it and let the public weigh in on it, but I'm also in agreement with Mr. Lyons. Just because you put it in the hand doesn't increase that child's ability to learn and understand. Some it does, some it doesn't. And, I remember Fred Morton left here and went to, I think it was Henrico, and they did the one-on-one initiative, and they learned a lot of valuable lessons. So, which leads me to my next question, is that have we done any other school divisions that may have implemented this and contacted them and maybe got a lessons learned from them?
I think we have talked to other school divisions who've had devices, but other school divisions have not had this initiative yet because it's the first year of the grant.
Right, but, you know, I
Right.
mean, if you've got other school divisions that's trying to do the one-on-one initiative.
Right.
whatever-
That's part of selecting this product.
Okay.
But yes, there are other school divisions that we've talked to, and I don't know that off the top of my head, but I'll find that out for you. And how we've talked about policies for taking them home and how that works. Those conversations have happened.
You know me, I'm all about it, but I'm all about doing it in a smart way, not just because somebody's throwing a carrot at me.
I have two questions, if I may. When is this pilot going to take place?
Do you have a date?
It'll be starting soon, the devices
I didn't hear. When?
They have not set a date yet, but hopefully in the next month or so.
That's crucial. Because right now, I'm thinking what Ms. Woolsey and Mr. Jones are saying has got some validity to it. And if we don't get that pilot started so we can see or hear what's going on, which may answer some of their questions, and we don't have a whole lot of time. My point is, if we're going to vote this in the budget, we've got to have information on that pilot ASAP. It's got to come out.
Good point. We'll see if we can get that back to you and give you a start
Then
date.
we can sit down and look at it very comfortably and know what we're looking at, because right now, here we are. We got a device in our hands and we have no idea what's going to happen to it.
How many,
And Mr. Lyons is perfectly correct at this point.
how many devices will be in that pilot program, and where's the funding for that coming from?
We were looking at 2 different classrooms to pilot.
So that's like 40 different devices, basically. I'm thinking 20 students a classroom, so where does the funding for that come from?
I'm still confused when you said 40 devices. I thought we had narrowed it down to 2 devices only.
But you're going to,
What device?
So we're ordering
oh, okay,
one.
so you're not doing for every student in that classroom, just one for each classroom, is that what you're saying?
Could you come to the podium, please?
I must have misunderstood you the last time, sorry.
For the iPads, we currently have them in the division. We're just going to move them to that classroom so that they can run the pilot. So we're only ordering one device. And I'm not sure which Windows device we selected to pilot, but it's a Windows device that we'll be piloting.
Surface or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one it is.
But it is a Windows-based.
Exactly.
So we're comparing Windows and Apple.
Right, because we have, I mentioned last time, our biggest concern is being able to efficiently run the software that we already have, and we've experienced some issues with Apple in running those. So we want to make sure that everything runs, like I said, especially interactive achievement and the Math 180 and Read 180, the things that we've invested heavily in, we want to make sure work on those devices, because that'll be an important instructional use for them.
What's the plan for the length of time you're going to run the pilot program?
I think we intend to do it for a short time. Our goal was to start second semester, and then we've got 2 different teachers that have been on the committee, so we decided to let them have first dibs since they've done all the hard work and the research. So I think we'll probably do it for a short amount of time.
How short is that?
I don't know that we have a firm deadline.
So can I offer a question real
But I
quick?
hear you saying you want us to do it quickly and get you back information, so we'll take that into account when we plan.
Maybe you could gather all the information together on the pilot and send it out to the board.
Absolutely.
If you would, please. Get us a little bit more detail.
Thank you,
Mr.
Jennifer.
Jones, is your microphone on? I don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm both boards. It's a long day.
It went from 70 degrees to 6. Give them a break.
Up since 3 a.m.
Any other questions before we move on to line 5?
Thank you.
I will say thank you for doing this.
Yes.
This is very helpful.
It really is.
Certainly helpful to me, and I appreciate the time y'all put into doing that.
Line 5 is the student enrollment software, which that continues to be a need for Montgomery County Schools. The software would allow for more efficiency, less manpower in managing enrollment. It reduces our paper, saves money, time by handling initial registrations. And some systems could be customized to even handle a variety of forms. For example, the first day packets that you're familiar with could become more user-friendly. And using less manpower and hours in sorting through those forms would be another advantage of that. Line 6 is the college application week. You as a board indicated a desire to replicate the application week that we did at Eastern Montgomery High School. This funding would allow us to create programs at each high school and to assist students with applying to schools or receiving fee waivers.
It was my understanding that it cost $50,000 to do it at East Montgomery?
We had funding for East Montgomery, so this would be a similar program, but would not be able to do everything that we did at Eastern Montgomery.
That's why it's...
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So is this basically waiving fees for the kids?
We would, depending upon the money we received, if that was if the money was passed, that we could look at a couple of things, helping do some fee waivers or helping students apply to get fees waived, that type of thing.
Okay.
And we would define that once we knew funding. Line 7 is basically an unfunded mandate. 403 and 457 plans associated with the VRS hybrid plan must be monitored for compliance per the IRS regulations. Line 8 is math instructional enhancements. Math is our focus area for improvement. And this year we used Math 180, and we used a program called Reflex to assist in remediation. Reflex is used in the elementary and the middle schools, and that focuses on knowing basic math facts. Math 180 is a sequential program that focuses on math concepts, which support our middle school students as well. We also want to add a computer-based Algebra 1 intervention. And we're still working to provide enough graphing calculators at each school. In short, the math enhancements are needed to ensure a successful math program and to move our schools out of academic review status. And we feel we've been successful with Reflex and Math 180 thus far, so we want to keep working with that.
So Math 180 will be available in every school?
Yes.
That's great.
A question, it's not totally related to this, but kind of a software license that each school gets. If they get it at one school and another school uses the same thing, does that other school have to buy it too, or do we do a kind of a...
There are different companies have different plans for that. In this one, we've been able to buy seats and use the number of seats we need throughout the county rather than saying we only have 10 seats and at each school or something like that.
I guess the one that comes to mind is this accelerated reader that elementary school uses. When one school buys one of those, are they capable of sharing that with all of our?
That one is set up a different way, and it's pretty much school by school. We have not done a division purchase of that particular program. Website Content Manager. Currently we use freeware, which doesn't provide the web support we need. Our web is certainly a reflection of the school division, and a purchase product would simply save us time and staffing hours if we had a website content manager. And that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Staton to talk about compensation changes.
This next item that we'll talk about is in the category of compensation changes. Lines 12 through 15 are associated with the unfunded mandates. As you may recall, line 12 and through 14 deals with the increases to our general rates for VRS retirement, group life, and retirement health care. Line 15, this is also an unfunded mandate related to the hybrid plan. Line 16, long-term disability. This is to cover the one-year gap created by the state mandate for long-term disability. Extending this benefit is an option that the board may choose to provide. And line 16 is based on the conversation with our consultant. 10% is the estimate recommended for use in our budget planning. This number will be adjusted as soon as we have the definitive numbers from Anthem. We expect to quote sometime in early February. Line 18, based on the facts we have now, this is an estimate on how much the part-time plan will cost. For planning purposes, we use the cost based on our current insurance premiums. We will bring you some updated information as soon as we receive more exact estimates from our consultant. Ms. Franklin requested additional cost estimates for extending insurance coverage to the employees working 20 to 29 hours, and this slide kind of shows you that information. Again, the premium information is not yet available for this employee group. This estimate is based on the projected lowest cost plan offered by Montgomery County Public Schools. Coverage options for the part-time employees are still being evaluated by our consultant, so we'll bring that information back to you as we have it available to us. In line 19, we are looking closely, thank you. In line 19, we are looking closely at how we might approach salary enhancements since our current salary scale is broken due to several years of no step increases. We have been collaborating with Montgomery County's Education Association and a salary committee on this issue. Additionally, we have released an RFP in hopes of having a consultant guide us in this area. The $2.3 million is 2.8% of our current salary expenditure. That does not mean that everyone will get a 2.8% increase. This is designed to provide funds to apply to employee compensation as we look at how to begin to develop a feasible salary schedule. Line 20 is a subtotal of $6.2 million, which indicates a $1.5 million is related to unfunded mandates. And back to Ms. Dr.
Okay, question here.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
We received this school division sick days, personal days. Did you see this? Anyway, it shows that every county in the world has 10 sick days or 12 sick days, and our employees have 5. Have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but I'm going to yield to Mr. McElandra to come up and talk to that issue.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Currently, we do have some employees that receive 5 days of sick leave. Not all of our employees. Certified folks, 11, 10-month teachers, they all receive 10 days a year. There are some, and that's established in policy, that those folks working those hours or less hours than a standard teacher, if you will, would receive half of the amounted or allotted days. So that's a policy change that you can consider.
First, who would those people be?
There's a list of paraprofessionals, bus drivers, and such.
Okay.
Right.
We give a benefit to our people, an incentive.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
Well, neither do I.
Part-time incentive.
That's the information that I was asking for, Joe, that we have for years, finally worked up to giving our part-time employees, that's 20 hours or more, that the incentive.
Yeah.
And that's not included in the budget. That's what this figure is. Okay?
Right.
Right? Because employees now, under the Affordable Health Care Act, it's 30 hours. So we have 174, if I'm reading this right, employees who are 20 hours to 29 hours, which puts them out of the Health Care Act that we, part that we have to provide now. You following me?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
I'm
Thank you.
confused because the incentive part is still in the budget, but it's just funding their health insurance is not, right?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, because where's the incentive part at? Because that's what I was,
The incentive is a part of the normal budget.
Right.
That is not, that's the operating budget. That's a rollover, if you will, from last year to this year. That's something that we haven't even approached. It's just in the normal, it's in the 100
It's in
and,
the 94,688.
That's what we're starting with already.
right.
It's your starting point from last year, total of
It's not one of the questionable changes, correct?
okay. So the employees who are working 20 to 29 hours, their funds are already in the budget.
That's correct.
Okay, because that was my question last week. Where was that at?
That is in the budget, the normal operating budget that we have. The money that we are asking for in this proposed budget deals with additional funds needed to cover those people working 30 hours or more. But what I understood your question is last week is what about those people that work 20 to 29 hours a week? That's what you have in front of you now, is that additional cost on top of what we've already, this isn't reflected anywhere in the proposed budget. This,
Right, okay. So
Yeah.
that's what I thought, that this group of folks, which if the number I'm reading right here is 171, the $1,177,000? Or is it the 829,000 would be
I don't-
additional funds?
But that's to cover their health insurance. It's not the part-time incentive,
That's
right?
correct. The part-time incentive is totally separate from this.
Yeah, and I understand that. That's what I know it's separate. So you're saying it's already rolled into the budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So those folks don't have to worry about losing their money unless we decide to cut that.
That is correct.
It's already reflected. Okay.
And the other part of it is the sick leave is policy, which we have to deal with eventually.
That is correct.
If we care to.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this 1.17 million is not, if we wanted to add that, it's not on this sheet as of right now, correct? That's just what.
That's correct.
Oh, okay, isn't that what I kept trying to say? It's
Yeah.
not on the sheet?
Yeah, it's not, this is not on the sheet.
Yeah.
But they're talking.
That's the insurance.
Yeah, that's the health costs.
That's the
The
health-
health insurance costs.
The part-time employee incentive cost is already in the budget. But this is health insurance. If we're talking two different things.
Yeah.
Because
Health
Yeah.
insurance
And the incentive?
and then the incentive.
Yeah,
But see, the incentive is a
Include.
stipend that the folks are given and they have the option to do it. That's already
Right.
in there. So they're not, if we approved the budget even today as it was last year, they would not lose that, right? Okay.
Right.
If we wanted to go above and beyond that, that's the way I understand this page here, it's above and beyond.
Right.
For all, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, because that's not what I was asking for. But good to know.
Okay.
And can you back up that slide, one more slide?
Sorry, this one.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand. Lines 12, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, lines 12 through 18, as I see it, are pretty much unfunded mandates, except, the health insurance and the 10%. But, I mean, all of this is because the state has decided that they don't want to be part of that retirement process anymore. And so now they're pushing it down to the localities, which makes pushing it down to the taxpayer is what they're doing.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And, if we want to, and then the way that this thing has been structured, like for instance, line 16, the way they have pushed it down and the way they have structured it means that new people being hired, was it July the 1st, is that correct? When it would go into effect? Have no insurance coverage that first year if it's somewhat catastrophic, is the reason that line's there. So
But that line is a board option. Not every
Right,
system
right.
is doing it,
I
but
know.
you're exactly right.
It's a board option, and it's an option because you want to make sure that you're offering your employees some protection, whereas before, they had no real protection if we're not going to be allowed to be part of the sick bank and all the other things that may come about related to this. I think it's important. I'm not counting line 19, but if I do the math, and what is it, a penny in the tax is $700,000, is that the number we're using? Right? So if you do the math, you're looking at almost 6 cents right there.
Well, he's got the total at the bottom here.
Yeah, I know, 8 cents, but I'm just talking to
But I mean,
focus
the
in.
unfunded mandates is $1.5 million.
Right.
But
See, I don't think that, to me, I think it's more than that, but I don't want to get into the math on it right now, so, anyway.
Okay. But you said line 12 through 19. Line 17 is not,
Right, I said excluding that.
okay.
I said, and I'm not including line 19, it's 18 through 12, and of course, the health insurance, you have to deal with, so, again, I want the public to know that the state is not doing their job as they have done in the past, therefore, they have pushed it down to the localities, which has pushed it down to the citizens. And you look at these numbers and it's significant, okay? That's it. Any more questions on that?
So we'll move on to the staffing changes. In the area of staffing, lines 22 through 24 speak to restoring some key positions that were funded with one-time money. Our math coaches are seen as critical in our work to improve student success. I think you'll hear that, especially if you talk to some of the teachers that are working with them. In-school suspension programs serve to keep our students in school, where we can maintain instructional time for students who need behavioral interventions, and to properly implement a backpack program, and even just to meet our current needs with the use of instructional technology. ITRT will be a necessity, and that position was cut in 2012, so we'd like to restore that. Likewise, we would need a technician. As I mentioned before, we've increased our technology, but we haven't added a technician since 1998, which is kind of hard to believe. Line 26 is the payroll benefits assistant, which you as a board recently talked about and discussed that we will need to have that as a full-time position next year. And then 27 is just a leadership staff change. That was a change in contractual status, which was a savings last year. And a portion of the benefits associated with this change need to be restored for the 14-15 year. Any questions about staffing? Thank you.
At this time, we'll start a discussion on the capital increases, and with line 31, we actually need to replace one-time funds for building repair and roof maintenance, for the roof maintenance plan. Last year, the Board of Supervisors allotted about $570,000 in one-time money to cover the capital projects. We are requesting money this year to pay for ongoing roofing maintenance projects at selected schools. Our capital maintenance plan requires ongoing maintenance at schools based on most critical needs. We are asking to replace the one-time funds and to allocate $250,000 to address capital needs that have been outlined in the capital maintenance plan. Line 32, we've asked you to replace the one-time funds for 21st century classroom improvements. In order to continue to improve classrooms and ensure that they are technologically relevant, we have requested $150,000, which will go to address classroom amplification at BMS and CMS and improve wireless capabilities at Christiansburg High School and East Montgomery High School. We will continue to sustain those improvements already made throughout the school system. In line 33, we've asked you to replace one-time funds for the purchase of aging buses. This year, we're asking for 2. We have an aging bus fleet that requires attention. Last year, we were able to purchase 2 regular buses and 2 special needs buses for $341,509. The 2 special need buses were purchased with one-time money from the Board of Supervisors. This year, we are asking for $175,000 to purchase 2 regular buses. We are cautiously optimistic that the funds will be available from the Board of Supervisors, possibly from one-time money. Line 38, the projected increase is based on the governor's proposed budget and an average daily membership of 9475. On behalf of the superintendent, we request that you approve this preliminary budget request for the operating budget and the school nutrition budget for the purpose of the public hearing to be held on January 28th, next week. And with that,
So moved.
Second.
Now we can have discussion.
So I hear that the governor has amendments to his budget for more funding to public education, but we haven't heard down to our county what that would be.
What we know is that there are some amendments that came out of both the House and from the Senate, and some of those things they don't marry each other, so they're asking different things, and of course, they have to go back and deliberate and come up with some resolution on what they're going to present to the governor.
News that I heard that the extra was going to Northern Virginia.
I didn't hear that. Say that again, ma'am.
I said the news that I heard, the extra $5 million was going to Northern Virginia, that the governor had instituted. So,
I haven't heard that, but
well, I heard it on the news.
okay.
Guaranteed.
Well, I know the current governor's got a lot of cleaning up to do. It's the one that left office. Done nothing but damage education.
That was the plan. Yep.
Any further discussion on the budget? This is the budget for the hearing next week, and, once we approve it, it's for public hearing, it kind of becomes our budget, but I think it also becomes the public's budget, because I think we need to hear from the public. And in the past, we have not, these public hearings haven't been that well attended, and I would hope that the public would come out and would encourage those in the audience to let their friends and neighbors and everyone around the dais here, let their friends and neighbors know that we have this budget, and we certainly want their input on it. I'm in favor of pushing this forward for the public so they can see what the needs-based is.
I agree. I think there's 3 things that the public has to do. They have to lobby in Richmond, and that can start like tomorrow. They've got to speak to the supervisors, and they've got to speak to us. And we've got to know exactly where we stand, because right now, I have no idea where we stand. And I really need some help from the public to let us know their feelings about this budget. I think it's a good budget, but again, I can't compare it to anything because I don't know what the state's doing, I don't know what the supervisor's doing.
And we won't know till March.
Yeah, really.
Question, just point of clarification. We're approving this for next week's public hearing, but then we'll come back in February, taking that information, and then reapprove whatever we're going to send to the Board of Supervisors?
Correct.
Because that brings up something I brought up last week, that I would not vote for a budget where we were asking for an increase in property tax. I do want to leave that line in there for the public to see next week, to see if to get their input, do they want their property taxes to be raised? But with that said, when we come back in February, I don't even want the mention of increasing property taxes to be anywhere on in the language that we send to this Board of Supervisors. I understand that we are going to have a shortfall if we keep this budget the way it is of $8.5 million, but my hope is that they're going to find some other way to give us that money or that increase, or we get more money from the state when all said and done. But I am totally opposed to putting any language in there that would suggest that we want to raise property taxes.
Well, we don't.
That's not the
That's not
process,
what we
yeah.
do. You know, we send the budget. This is just for our reference to understand. This is what would be needed for this. But we don't tell the supervisors what to do. We just tell them what we need.
But it is a part of what we send to them in terms of paperwork.
No.
No?
I think
No.
if I hear you right,
No.
what you're saying is you don't want to vote yes to a budget that goes forth saying you're okay with asking for an 8.2%
Exactly.
cent tax raise, which I would not be either. And
Exactly.
so I completely understand what you're saying, but I think in that case, you would just make that known publicly.
Well, and I mean, quite honestly, there is going to be an increase in our budget because we have to fund the mandates. So you either fund the mandates and go in and cut other things.
Right.
I mean, money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, it has to come from somewhere. And, you know, we won't know what we're actually getting. I mean, it's a very frustrating process, and I can understand your frustration because we're up here, they're asking us to come up with a budget, and we're just kind of, it's blind. I mean, but we know what our needs are,
Right.
and I think it's important that the community and the public understand what our needs are to efficiently and effectively operate the school division.
Right.
And this is not a pie-in-the-sky budget, okay, like some people would like to think it is. I mean, we could go back to, I don't know, the 50s and the 60s if we wanted to in the educational approach, but we don't live in the 50s and 60s anymore, okay? We live in a much different world, and the world is, and we've got to respond to that. And so it's expensive. Education is expensive. But I can tell you the lack of education is even more expensive. Okay? And that's kind of where we're headed.
Yeah.
If we don't want to put the money in it, then, you know, sometimes you get what you pay for. And I think it's time that I think the supervisors have done an excellent job stepping up and covering what the state has done. And I'm very appreciative of what the supervisors have done and understand the pressure that they're under in trying to do it. And some of them has really stuck their neck out there on the limb and nearly got it chopped off. But, you know, it's a difficult time. I don't want to pay more taxes. It impacts me, but I also understand where it's going and the benefits of it.
I'm pleased with what I read yesterday, that the new administration has indicated that they want to move out of the 19th century and move up to the 21st century. And that right there is a positive note as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what the state's going to do, but if they do that, if they move to the 21st century, then they've got to pay attention to education. They've got to. And I really feel as though they're going to do that. Well, it's a wait-and-see game.
Well, you know, we only have a new governor, you know, with that mindset. We still have pretty much the same other folks in the House and in the Senate. And if they're not going to go along with what our new governor is intending for public education.
Well, the Senate is one vote away.
It won't be there, okay? So, you know, you say we thank the supervisors, but they may do the increase, but it's the citizens who are taking that money out of their pocket.
Right.
And Mr. Jones, I'm with you. I pay taxes along with the rest of my family and friends, and I understand how that hurts, but I also understand that it costs, like you said, it's a whole lot cheaper to do it on the front end than it is on the back end, not to mention the situation that we're putting this country in by not educating our children and preparing them for the world and to be able to compete. I mean, these folks are the ones who are going to be sitting here making decisions, going to be sitting at corporate tables and making decisions that are going to impact the rest of us, you know. And if they're not prepared to do that, somebody else is going to be doing it. And our best interest may not be their best interest, okay? So we need to really think about what we're doing with students in the United States and how they're going to run this country. And that starts here in Montgomery County, and in Roanoke, and in Salem, and in Radford, and in Giles. If we're not doing it right here in this community and biting the bullet when it gets hard like it is now, because we have a governor, a former governor, who just stepped all over public education, because in my opinion, his objectives was, let's privatize it and me and my friends will make lots of money. And we know how he likes to make his money, the illegal way. But anyway, I understand Mr. Lyons' concerns about, putting forth something that's going to raise taxes, but I have to constantly be reminded myself, because I understand what it means to raise taxes on people who really can't afford it, or it stretches them to do it. But at the same time, I also have watched children go through this system and not be able to take care of themselves and their families because they were not given an education that they could use to do that. And some of that is because they didn't get the access to technology that, and I understand if we don't do the right things by just give them that device and don't develop folks to help them develop themselves, then it's useless. But I also understand there's some children out there who would not have access to that device that could change their whole world and to how they feel they are able to achieve and compete in this society. Because just the phone alone, I just got my smartphone last year, and it changed my life as to how I'm able to function and operate. They're game changers. So, I've weighed this back and forth since last week as to what's the real impact of these devices. And we can talk about, which ones you get, how cheap and what's expensive. Bottom line is this something that we want to do for our children, and then figure out what level we can do it at? I've been doing this for a long time, and it just really, really irritates me, to put it lightly, what's happened to public education just in Montgomery County. Our teachers are at the lowest in the state, in the country, in the state of Virginia. What is that saying about how we value public education in Virginia? What is that saying? It is time for everybody to step up and say, I don't want to pay more local taxes, so I need to be speaking to folks in Richmond. So, quite frankly, a lot of folks who sit back and whine and complain about my taxes are being raised, I can't afford this, I can't afford that because my taxes are so high, they need to come and hear why their taxes are high, and then go to Richmond. Instead of sitting here in Montgomery County whining about it, go to Richmond, do emails, do phone calls. When these folks come to town, go to their offices and meet with them and tell them, you guys need to step up and do your part and stop putting it back on us. People have got to step up at every level in this county, and quite frankly, stop sitting around and waiting for Blacksburg to do all the mouth work. Plain and simple. Because Blacksburg comes out when they want something, and when they need something, they come out and make it heard. The rest of the county tends to sit back, except for Auburn. Okay, you guys did what you're supposed to do. Tends to sit back and let things happen to them. If you keep letting things happen to you, then you get what you get. So citizens, step up and make those folks in Richmond step up, because they're not, and that means your pockets are going to get emptier.
Any further questions about the budget? Board members, we have a motion on the table, and we have a second on the table to approve this for the public hearing, which is next Tuesday evening. And since this is budget, I would like to do roll call.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Ms. Coran?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. Budget passed. This will be the budget for next Tuesday evening. Public hearing scheduled for 7 p.m. in these chambers. And with that, we move to unfinished business. Board members, do you have unfinished business you would like to bring up at this cold, late evening?
I brought up the issue of
Would you just lose your train of thought?
go ahead, I'll think of it.
Anybody have any other new
Adjournment.
unfinished business? I'll go to new business. You can bring it back up.
Yeah.
Any new business by school board members?
Okay. At public address, we heard about employees working 40 hours and not receiving benefits. Because I remember we had the discussion several years ago related to employees being considered part-time and working 2 different jobs in the county.
Is that what this is?
And-
I don't know.
Right,
So-
and
Yeah.
to be considered eligible for the part-time incentive, you had to work 20 hours. And if you worked 2 different jobs and they added up to 20 hours, then you got the incentive. So is that not the same thing for 40 hours? If you're working 2 jobs and you're working 40 hours, you're not full-time? I'm not understanding that one.
I'm going to have to get some clarification and those things for you, Ms. Franklin. I've talked with our attorney about it, and I just can't recall what he had given me on this topic. I'll have to get back with you if that's okay.
If you don't know it, I guess that is, right?
I'll do it promptly.
Thank you.
Did you remember?
Yes.
Okay, back to Mr. Ivers under unfinished business.
Thank you. I had brought up zero tolerance and the threat assessment situation. Is that scheduled to come up soon, or is that?
In March.
Yeah, we're bringing it forward to you in March, and
Okay.
just reviewed some information today, so we're still compiling it.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, and I have questions about the Blacksburg High School schedule. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I mean, if it's been working, why are we changing it? I don't understand why we would put children in the situation to take courses at school that they could take before, that they would have to find transportation back and forth to school, that it would interfere with extracurricular activities and work, because some of our students need to work, but they still want to be able to take every advantage they can of the courses that are offered. So what's going on with that?
I think Dr. Graham put a whole page in their response to me. Did you read that yet?
I'm here at the board table, Mr. Jones.
Okay, I'm just saying that there-
I'd just like to hear,
Okay.
so the public can hear what's going on with that, because I'm not liking what I'm hearing, and I haven't read anything yet.
Okay.
A proposed schedule change was made that what they're doing is they sent home, and today is when the letter went home to incoming 9th graders, proposing the students would sign up for the classes they want, like they normally do. They wanted to change to 7 periods because last year we had difficulty, so many students signed up for other classes that we used some volunteer teachers. Teachers volunteered to teach some classes. Staffing-wise, we had not planned for that staffing, so we had to go ahead and use some volunteers. So to stay within the guidelines that we have, the budget that we have, we needed to look at how can we meet student needs within the budget we have. So what we did this year, we let some teachers do some volunteering to teach some classes in lieu of some extra duties, that type thing. But we need to be paying teachers for the classes they teach. So that was a portion of it. We looked at what we could do, and we thought we could still do 8 classes, given the 0 period and the 8th period. So we're still planning on offering the 8 classes through that method. Hopefully, and in talking to Mr. Kitts, he did not think there will be a lot of children that had issues with the transportation, but we're asking when they turn in their schedules or turn in their request, he'll look at that, meet with anyone that has a transportation issue and try to work that out. We'll also look at the requests that come in to see finally what kind of schedule we will have. Will that work or will that not work?
So it comes down to staffing is what I'm hearing. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's a bigger portion of it, yes. And the other piece was lunch. We had students that, there's a 45-minute lunch period, which is a long time for a child to have a lunch period, and then there's a flex time on top of that. We had students having that long lunch period, and then we had other students that were choosing to not eat lunch at all. And the numbers became so great that that's not the best choice for children to go all day long and not eat a lunch. or to have a long extended lunch that really isn't the best use of instructional time.
Is it a state requirement for students to have a lunch in their schedule?
We can double check that. I'm not aware that it's a mandate, so I can double check that for you.
Seems like lots of conversation comes up about the 8 period. Why does Blacksburg not consider block scheduling when they can get many more credits a year? Why is that never considered? Why are they not interested in that?
They did talk about it last year. They talked about a variety of options. Staff never came to consensus that a block schedule is what they wanted.
So are they in a consensus, this is the schedule they want? Because I tell you what I don't want to have happen is an onslaught of emails saying I don't agree with this schedule like we had last year related to the middle school schedule and all the presentations and different things. I don't want that repeated. The other thing that I know is that I thought the flex time was there so that students could do tutoring, that I know that they took advantage of meeting with different teachers during that time to try to get extra help for different subjects they may be struggling in, was part of the flex time. So how does we replace that if we're going to eliminate the flex time?
Two questions. First, you mentioned the consensus part. Mr. Kitts showed us two schedules that he proposed to use. I don't think there is 100% consensus on anything at this point. There are teachers that would be fine with block schedule, and there are teachers that are not. Their core teachers want, the academic teachers tend to want one thing, specialty teachers another. So I think he's come to what he thinks is the most teachers have agreed to at this point.
Consensus is not 100%, I understand that.
Correct. So. And then the flex time, yes, I do think that's the intent of the flex time, but not every child is taking advantage of tutoring every day, so I don't think that's, that's just extra time added on. It's like 10 or 15 minutes. 10 minutes. So.
How do you respond to the public comment about a student saying they can't meet their requirements to graduate with the schedule and can't take band?
Most of our students graduate with more than enough credit hours, so I don't think that's an issue. I think they can certainly get enough credit hours to graduate. The band piece, as they look at the schedule, I think we'll find that students can take band, but that's still being worked out.
I'm getting lots of emails and phone calls on this, and I really don't. I'm not answering them yet because I don't know what to say. I don't necessarily need to be the person who needs to tell them. I can refer that, but I can't be left in the dark. I've got to have something that I can hang my hat on, and right now I don't. How do I go about getting that hook I can hang my hat on in case more phone calls come in and I need to discuss this at a level of some intelligence?
Yeah, I think the hook is what we normally do with scheduling. Normally, the requests go home. Principal looks at it. If they have to make revisions, they make revisions. So even though this is a schedule change, it is a normal part of the process when the requests come in. Sometimes we have to drop a course, sometimes we have to add a course. So we're still just starting that part. Because sent you the letter today that was going home today.
I saw that, thank you.
Right. So once that, that's still part of the process right now. So,
Okay, so-
there isn't a,
Okay.
hey, this is absolutely it at this point. Yeah.
There's a lot of misinformation floating around out there.
Yes.
I'm assuming.
I think a lot of information to students before the letter even went home. So,
Okay.
yes. And
Thank you.
there's still a schedule to be determined. Yeah.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, and as far as what is or is not factual, we won't be putting students in a situation where they would have to take a class before or after school where transportation may be an issue. Is that true or not?
Right now, the proposed schedule that's going home shows a 0 period and an 8th period. A 0 period is before school, 8th period is after school. There's a note on the letter that says, if transportation is an issue, then come in and talk to the school, because we plan to look at any child that might be an issue for and look at how we might address that our intent is to make sure that children can get the courses they need.
Which means the child still may not be able to take the course because they don't have transportation, even after you look at it. That's a possibility, right?
It's a possibility, yes.
And that we, especially at Blacksburg, have been priding ourselves at how many AP courses that students are able to take. And with 7 schedules, they may not be able to take all those classes that they want to. Is that true or not?
The intent of the 0 and 8th was to try to keep them to be able to take all the classes they need to. So until he gets all the requests, I can't tell you yes or no.
Okay, so for me, there's a difference between need to and want to, because children, especially with the block schedule, they take more classes than what they need to because they want to, okay? And is that something that we want our children to do? You know, aim high, take more, be the best they can? I have another one, but I can't remember what it is. So if you have something I might remember.
When you just do the simple math, you have math class, social sciences, science and language arts, and finance required for the 9th graders, and then PE is required for 9th graders. So that's 6 required classes. So that leaves them only 1 period for whatever else they would like to do. And if they are taking fine arts, that's it. They can't take any photo class, that is 2 period. They can't do any career technology, drafting, that could be 2 period. This is just for 9th grade. Of course, the issue gets complicated for sophomores and juniors and seniors. Then you get into the double credit classes. You know, there are some drafting and photo not being an AP class. They are 2 period classes. And then, of course, science classes, most of them requires 2 period when it goes to AP. So you're really, without going 0 and 8 period, which has its issues, transportation issue, after school they do so many other things. It's really limiting what kids can do. I mean, I have my personal experience more with my 3 kids too. And you know, they have to eat lunch, but they don't need to eat lunch 45 minutes. So I think the other option should be having the flex a little longer and grabbing a granola or a little sandwich, and then, you know, have an option of taking that 8th class or 2 period classes. And then when I look at the top 10 Virginia high schools, everybody has AB schedule alternating, and that gives them a more option of taking more classes, because there are different block options. What we do in Christiansburg High School, semester block, 4x4, whatever it's called. But then there are also alternating gold day, blue day, you know, maroon day, black day, those kind of schedules. You know, how come we won't look into that? That might be an option to get more classes in. And seems like top 10, I mean, each and every one on an AB schedule, top 10 Virginia high schools. So that
And
was
it is
something
still
we should look into. I
still a
think.
work in progress, yes.
Yeah, if we want to keep the level of education that we want in the county.
Well, and who we hear from in the public address a lot of times is parents and students. So have we had like a survey for the parents and students at Blacksburg to see what they want as far as block or the 8 periods or 7 periods? Because, you know, like I said, the years I've been on the board, I've always heard from students saying, we don't understand why Blacksburg won't go to the block system. And second, too, some of our other high schools also are in need of AP classes and things like that they aren't always, and they get those online, correct?
Yeah, virtual.
But there's a lot of students in some of the other high schools that don't always get the classes they need. Am I correct in thinking that? Is that right?
In any school.
But they have to go through a different route, right?
Right.
But that's usually because of the small number of students who want the class.
I get that, but there's still some smart kids that want those classes and have to go a different alternative route to get them.
Okay, but my point with that is the staffing. If we have enough children who want to sit in the classroom and be taught, and we're going to say, well, no, because we're going to only do 7 classes and not 8, and it's a staffing issue, then that goes back to this budget. And as I reminded you all earlier in the year, how cutting full-time positions was going to eventually, has started to affect the school system. And if this is one of those areas, then we need to address it.
So, to Ms. Franklin's comment, do you know how much staff you need?
I know that last year there were 26 courses, is that correct? 26 that were volunteering teaching.
So we need 26 full-time positions, FTEs? Okay.
No, each teaching a class, so then you would divide that out, and 26 divided by 5 classes a day or 6 classes a day would probably equate to about 3 teachers, 3 or 4.
So to continue the model as it is now, so we don't know.
Right.
Okay. Be nice to know.
We can find that out for you.
Any other comments on the schedule? Any other items of new business by school board members? Hearing none, information and announcements. Any school board member have information and announcements?
Dialogue on race this Saturday, Blacksburg Rec, 10 to 2. Everyone's invited. You don't have, if the RSP is already passed, but if you let me know, I'll get you in.
With lunch?
With lunch. I've already upped the count.
And several of us are going to Richmond to speak to
Yes.
some of our representatives and senators. So if you have questions that you'd like us to relay or comments, share it with us.
Just take the budget with you. Any other announcements or information? Hearing none, the next item is upcoming school board meetings. The next meeting is next Tuesday. Help me with the date here.
28th.
28th.
January
Thank you.
28th?
January 28th at 7 p.m. in these chambers on the public hearing, and then again, you see the rest of the meeting dates on the 4th and 18th. And with that, I seek a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All those in
Yep.
favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're now adjourned.
Sound really important. For judges.